Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This happened about 2 weeks ago. I was lucky enough to find some cheap ammo to go plinking. Target practice was my pistol. The range I go to is a nice well-kept indoor one with an attached shop, and I have a good standing with the staff. This time I took two of my guns with me, an MSR rifle that I have set up for hunting in my Dirty Edge style revolver, an MSR rifle that I have set up for hunting in my Dirty Edge style revolver, and met up with a friend. The range has safety rules posted all over the place and a constantly playing video regarding conduct on the range. So when the lanes open up for my friend and I notice a guy teaching his petite girlfriend, the entitled person, how to shoot. And she's having fun shooting a little 22 LR. It was nice to see someone doing that step in teaching. I follow the rules of uncasing with a rifle pointed down range and unloaded. I set the mags out with the 3 boxes of cheap ammo. One of the hunting load I planned on using whenever I get around to actually planning the trip, and turned back and put the case out of the way and grabbed my revolver and set it on a table in its holster. My friend then distracted me as the odd case he had for his rifle had a stuck zipper. When I turn back, my handgun is gone. I start to panic, then see the woman lift my gun to shoot it. It clicks on an empty chamber. "What are you doing?" I demand, and then nearly have a heart attack as she spins with the gun, almost pointing it at me. Her boyfriend stopped her from the full rotation. I was told she asked, "Sorry man." The guy said, "Diffusing it." I sigh, knowing how excited new people can be, and shrug it off. Even hand her a few bullets to let her try it, as the range only rents semi-autos and smaller revolvers, and have a laugh with a boyfriend as she gets her shots off with a Magnum, almost dumping her on her rear when she treated it like the little one she had started on. My friend and I go on our way plinking. I send my target to the end of the 50 yards and set to zeroing the scope. A box of rounds later, my friend and I decide to play a race game that is at the end of our lanes with our rifles. I lost by 1, so as we neared the end of our hour, I load another mag. I feel a fingernail jab me in the shoulder. I turn to find a woman looking at me expectantly and her boyfriend no place around. "Can I help you?" I asked. "I want to shoot that," she said, pointing at my rifle. I blinked as she was demanding it, not asking. Now I know I should have said no, but this is the same woman that had almost committed a felony, probably did, by taking my handgun without asking. I look at my friend and he just shrugged. "Well?" she demanded. "Ma'am, do you even know how to shoot a rifle?" I asked hesitantly. "I know what I'm doing. Just give me the gun," she said, crossing her arms, making her look like even more of a child. This gun kicks pretty hard. Are you sure?" "Yes, move," she said. I had loaded 3 of the hunting loads in the bottom of the mag she grabbed. I stood back as a boyfriend walked in. Now, this rifle is one I have built. Not a normal AR with a 55 GR bullet. This one shoots 145 GR targets. This one shoots 145 GR targets, 185 GR hunting loads, and the 185 S I had in it were slightly hot reloads. While I can take the recoil on the gun was set up to take these loads, it is super light, meaning it jumps if you don't know how to brace it. Her boyfriend asked me why she was on my gun. It was a loud one in the room. She told me she knew what she was doing. I replied, and he covered his face as she put her eye up to the scope with little breathing room. Now I gotta say, either this guy wasn't planning on dating her for long or there was something else going on, but he said nothing to correct her. She kneels like I have been to use a shooter's bag, gun tilted with the butt against her shoulder, not tucked in where it needs to be for the correct way to mediate the recoil. First 5 shots, she's all smiles. just missing getting a black eye. I reach up at this point and turn off the mic for my Ear Pro speakers as I made the mistake of leaving it on while I tested the rounds before I had a proper scope. She slapped that trigger home and boom, big fireball. She drops the rifle, thankfully after accidentally hitting the safety and it landing against the shooter's wrist as she stands up holding her eye. Her eye protection is cracked with a crescent scope kiss to her brow. Thankfully, not bleeding. Her boy leans down and says something to her as she looks ready to cry or scream at me. He walks over and packs his range back to go. He storms out into the store area of the range. I finish off my mag and pack up with my friend to leave. As I put the rifle in my case, the range officer tapped me on my shoulder. I turned the mic back on. "I saw what you did. While I can applaud your tolerance, please just say no next time," he said. I went on down the line. As I walk out the door and remove my eyes and ear pro, Karen is raising hell. She's demanding that I get kicked out for letting a new person use a dangerous gun. She's ranting at the range manager, someone who knew me from my days as a security guard and knew that I wouldn't let someone try something without ample warning, as a few of my MSR build are out there in capacity and capabilities. To appease her, he takes me aside in the security office. "Did your gun really blow up in her face?" he asked. Well, I warned her that it kicked, and she refused to listen. She was holding it wrong and that's why her eyes black and blue. I replied. He sighs and asked me to look at the rifle. Hey Ted. She also grabbed my revolver without asking when I got here. I informed the manager. His eyebrows went up and since the range has cameras on it, he looked. And sure enough, I turned my back to help my friend. The range officer was at the other end and her boyfriend was at a table away from the line reloading mags. She grabbed my gun from its holster on the wrist and carried it carelessly over to her bay. Well, I seen enough, he said and asked me to wait outside in a shop. The woman was now bragging to her boyfriend who just stood there with a "why me" expression. Ted came out of the security office, walks up to her and says, "Ma'am, after careful consideration, I am banning you from being on a range for a year for several reasons. The main one, you could be going to jail if the man you want so badly to be removed calls the cops on you, dangerous handling of firearms, and bothering other patrons. Be glad that I have done business with him for a while and know that he wouldn't want a new shooter like yourself to be discouraged. So when your ban is over, you may come back, and you will take our new shooter safety class before you are allowed on a range." He explains and hands her the ban and the bar, notice and a flyer for the class. I stand there with my friend, doing my best not to burst out laughing, as she storms past for the door, cussing at me the whole time. And the irritated boyfriend, in tow, Ted walks up to us and hands us comp cards for the range time. Sorry about that. Also, if it happens again, get the RO to remove the person causing trouble, he stated and headed back to his office to finish the paperwork. I thought this was just crazy. Now I'm glad she wasn't seriously hurt as guns are not toys and can be very dangerous if misused. As someone at this same range put a hole in my range bag that was next to my foot through the bay divider about a year ago. I can't state the basic safety rules enough. Treat all the guns as loaded at all times. Never point a gun at something you are not willing to destroy, lives included. Never put your finger on a trigger till you're ready to shoot. And know what's downrange and beyond the target. This lady flagged at least 4 people when she turned to me. And the email I got today from the manager, in the 3 hours she had been there renting guns with her date, she had almost shot him twice as they worked on stance and grip. Broke the keep the barrel pointed down range rule multiple times, and the no food or drink policy on a range, and several other rules. I wish her well and hope her boyfriend survives this relationship. Hey, this is my first time posting here, but here we go. This is a story my father told me when he was out making runs for Uber Eats or DoorDash, not sure which. He went to TGI Fridays or something like that, and he parks in one of the spots that are designated for these drivers, happening to be the last spot that was for them. Cue the entitled woman. She approached my father's car and knocked on his window. Once he rolled it down, the following occurred. You just took my spot. No, this spot is for Uber Eats and DoorDash, and that's what I'm doing here. Well, I was going for that spot, and you took it from me. And the arguing goes like this for a minute until she smacks him over the spot. Now, a little backstory. Very important, my father is ex-military. I was born in a military hospital, and he served for a total of 8 years. You can imagine this bigger guy getting smacked by a woman. Oh, and did I mention he has his conceal and carry? Well, you can imagine he didn't like getting smacked, and pulls his pistol he keeps on his hip. Not sure what kind of gun it is, but he has no problem making it known he has it. And he points it at the woman with the safety on, instructing her to back away from him and his car. Of course, instead of doing so, this lady flips her crap, yelling and calling the police. Yes, calling the police, as she's standing behind his car, stopping him from going anywhere, drawing a crowd to her as she screams about the gun. The police show up and separate the two. They get stories from both of them. My father shows he has his conceal and carry. His gun is registered, and no wrongdoing was done. And after all, the cop in fact if he wanted to press charges for kidnapping and assault. Of course, my father said yes. This woman just put him through a bunch of unnecessary drama. This all happened on a Friday, so that lady had to spend a weekend in jail all over a spot. Edit 2, I guess I have to add this. But in the state of Ohio, kidnapping is defined as, according to official statutes, it is illegal to remove people from the place where they are found or to restrain their liberty in any way. Abduction under Ohio law is a removal of another person from the place they are found by force, threat, restrained, or to hold another in involuntary servitude. This story is back from when I was attending university several years ago, pre-pandemic. I was the president of the school club. We had good attendance but limited interest in leadership positions. So that means I was the only acting officer of this club, making me the secretary and treasurer also. The other officers were actually previous club presidents who had graduated. You just needed 3 student ID numbers to remain an active club. I had planned a large ice cream social that went great. I rented a ballroom on campus, free for student orgs. Had ice cream catering, a live band, and almost 100 students in attendance. It was a great way to begin the school year. Anyway, it all cost something like $1,021. Not the actual amount, but something like that. There were 2 methods to pay for this kind of thing. Petition in advance for university funds or pay it yourself and submit a reimbursement after the fact. In the past, the school had taken 6 months to pay a vendor I used, and it was a stressful experience because I wanted them to be paid, and I felt terrible having to just keep saying, the university is working on it, and go into the student org finance office twice a week to ask them about it for months. So I figured I'd take the hit and wait for the funds myself. I could sweat it out on student loans and get the band and caterer paid in a timely fashion. There is a bunch of compliance paperwork to fill out. You have to submit itemized receipts and so on. Long story short, it is a process, but I got it all filed and I waited. About 4 months later, I got an email prompting me of an activity in the student org finance portal to approve a direct deposit to my account. You have to confirm the amount. I wish I'd been drinking water because I would have spat it out dramatically. But the amount was for $10,211. They had clearly just misplaced the decimal point. I could accept or comment on it, so I wrote that the amount should have been $1,021. In an hour, I got a response back along the lines of, yes, the amount is $10,211. So I responded no, it should be $1,021, and the response was that she couldn't find an issue. Now look, I'm terribly dyslexic. As in, I actually am. I sometimes have to clarify this because it seems to be a quirky thing people without a learning disability say to play off a mistake. So I was genuinely thinking maybe I misread it and causing her to be confused. Maybe for who knows why the computer put 3 numbers after the decimal, so I was reading 1000 and thinking I saw 10 or something like that. I had a friend look at it and she confirmed I was, in fact, reading it correctly. But hey, maybe the lady in the finance office was also dyslexic, or overworked, or could care less to actually look. Whatever the case, I can explain myself better in person, so I walked down to the office. I was a regular at this point. There was hardly ever a line because nearly everything is done online. So I go up to the desk and say there has been a mistake on a reimbursement request for a club event. I am told to have a seat and she'll chat with me in a moment. So I wait for about half an hour while she sat on her iPhone at the desk. Then she calls me up. I explain I was over-reimbursed and she says, "Look, as I've told you, there is nothing wrong." So I said, "But it's off by a decimal place." She kind of just sighed and said she could deny the reimbursement or I could accept it and leave. She seemed to be very upset with me, probably because I was constantly asking her the previous year about the payment for that vendor. I said I would accept it and left. When you accept, you can make a comment, so I basically typed in the comment box that I tried to remedy the situation and was told there was no issue repeatedly, over chat and in person, and then was threatened to not be reimbursed at all. I took screenshots of all of the messages in case I had to defend myself. After a few business days, the money was directly deposited into my bank account the university has on file for tuition/student loans. I let it sit there for a couple of years while I was a student, expecting them to find the error and demand the money back. When I was getting close to graduating, and that never happened, I gave the money to a member in my club whose parents stopped paying his tuition. They pulled funds past the deadline for federal student loans and obviously wouldn't co-sign for private loans. Interestingly enough, for any events over 15k, you had to file invoices in advance and have it pre-approved. Anything under that, they recommend you do this, but you can be reimbursed with proper receipts and paperwork. I think that's why it didn't raise any alarms in the computer system. At least that's all I can reason. It kinda haunts me to this day that I might randomly owe 9k at some point, and I just don't understand what I was saying wrong, that she couldn't understand me. And I worry I should have gone to her supervisor, but I was 19, so I just did as I was told.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.